Well, hello. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jacob, and you are watching Better First Impressions. Today, I will be showing you how to make this beautiful summertime wreath. We're going to decorate it with these gorgeous red, white, and blue flowers so that it will look just like the American flag when it's hanging on your door this July 4th. So if you would like a list of supplies, materials, and tools that you will need for this project, there will be a link in the description below. So why don't you prepare a workspace and let's get started building this wreath together. Now before we get started making our wreath, we've got a couple decisions to make, and this is the fun part. This is where you get to be creative. So, first we gotta decide, what do we want our wreath to look like? So what does the American flag look like? We all know that. It's a rectangle. I'm drawing it particularly small on purpose. We got a blue rectangle up here in the corner, which is accented by some little white stars. That's the only thing you see on this flag, other than a bunch of red and white stripes. That's a good looking flag right there. We want our wreath to be red, white, and blue. Not my best work, but it'll do for today. So this is the shape of our wreath. Now we gotta decide where we want to put our colors at to make it look like this flag. I'm gonna put a big blue feature right here. And I'm gonna have some little white flowers and little white speckles, those little frilly things you see sticking out of floral displays sometimes. I'm just gonna have a few of those kind of sticking out over the top. And I'm going to alternate doing red and white all the way around. We know that we want dark green. This is not a very dark green marker. But now we know that we're gonna have dark green underneath all of our bright colors. Now I know the plan. Now I know what I'm gonna make and how it's gonna look. But anyhow, I got a whole bunch of tools here. What's up? All right, so now that we know what our wreath is gonna look like, we're gonna have to have a few tools in order to make that wreath happen. So really, the most important tool you're gonna need is a pair of wire cutters. You don't need much to make this thing, but I'd say that these are pretty essential. These flowers here, they got some metal wire in the stems. So you can get a pair from your local craft store. Those will be fine. Or if you want a pair like this, a nice pair of heavy duty, fencing wire cutters, you can get these from a friend named Kyle, who will give you his old pair when you ask to borrow some. After that, we're gonna need a way to get these flowers to stay stuck in that wreath. I'm gonna use a glue gun. After that, you might wanna have some wire or some string on hand. I've got these green zip ties, or you can just use regular old thin wire. I use this wire here for making snares and building radio antennas, but it'll also work just fine for making a wreath. A pair of wire cutters, hot glue gun, maybe some wire. That's all you really need. Now that we have our tools, now we need our actual florals and things to make the actual wreath with. So let's start with the wreath itself. This right here is what I'll be using today. It's an 18-inch wreath from Hobby Lobby, about $5 or $6. Not very expensive. They make these in all different shapes and sizes. Feel free to get whatever your heart desires. However, if you don't feel like getting a wreath from the craft store, you can make your own. This is a wreath made of wild muscadine vines. Took about 30 minutes. The only tool I had to make it with was a pocket knife. I'll show you how to harvest your own wild muscadine vines and turn them into a wreath here soon. So before you go to the craft store, think a little bit about what season it is. What kind of wreath are you making? I want to make a summertime wreath. So I have this wonderful book here. It's Bulbs for All Seasons. I got this book for $2.92 at a Goodwill. So go to your local Goodwill, you could probably find something similar. So let's start with our greenery. You want to have different textures and you want to have different leaves in there to make it feel natural and like a real scene. So I'm going with English ivy got these beautiful summertime ferns, and these are not from our area, but these eucalyptus leaves, those are gonna look real nice in contrast with these broad, deep ivy and fern leaves. Now on to our florals. We want red and white flowers for our main colors. I'm gonna go with tiger lilies predominantly for my colors because they are just beautiful and they almost look like a little flag waving in the wind already. Similar to our greenery, to bring a little bit of interest to the scene, something to change up the textures a little bit. I got these little round looking flowers here. I forget what they're called. They were in my book. Let's move on to our blue flowers now. I got a few different things going on with this blue because I really wanna highlight that nice blue corner. So the first thing I'm gonna put down is this dark shade of blue. That's really gonna make these lighter shades pop, and it's gonna make your eye go straight to it. Now, for our centerpiece, really the big bulb that's gonna be the main attraction of this wreath, I wanted a big hydrangea bulb. Couldn't find one at the store, so I got whatever this one is. Let's see if it says it on here. This is flower number 2493120. Next up, I got these little guys. Honestly, I don't know what any of these are, but they're pretty. So I got two light shades of blue flowers. These are smaller accent flowers that are gonna go right behind the main bulb. And then these little white flowers here, these are gonna be our stars. Okay, so let's get started making our wreath. And now if you're using your mother's tablecloth like I am, you might also want some parchment paper so you don't get some hot glue on it. Now I've never made a wreath before, but I decided a few weeks ago that I'm gonna start selling wreaths. So, you and I are gonna make this wreath on a journey together today. I think what I'm gonna do is take my green zip tie here, and I'm just gonna go underneath the vine and attach one end of it here like this. So, we don't wanna wrap it this way. That's gonna be counterintuitive to the way this vine is flowing. So I'm gonna match mine to the way that this vine here is flowing. We want it to be full enough that there aren't any major gaps in our wreath, but we don't want it to be so full that it looks cluttered. You gotta weave the whole dadgum thing through it every time. To secure your final wrap, I would suggest finding the point of beginning that you secured your first wrap with, right here on this zip tie. I'm gonna layer my finishing wrap right there over my first wrap. And you see this big thick vine that it's secured to? We don't wanna secure it to one of these little ones. Chances are that'll break over time. So, we're gonna take this thick vine, where it's attached to our beginning point, and we're gonna secure that final wrap to that same position. Okay, so now that we are on to actually placing our stems and our foliage, they come in little bunches like these. I would recommend about 2 for each piece that you want, and that's probably gonna give you a little bit left over. You could probably get by with 1 bunch each if you're trying to save some money, but you might not be able to fill out that wreath as full as you might want it to be. So when you're doing this, all you're gonna do is pull off each of these little individual ones. You don't just go sticking this bunch all over the place like this. You're gonna have to go in here and pick out the pieces you want. So, just like that, we're gonna clip one of our ferns. Now to attach these ferns, you take your hot glue gun and you simply put a little bead of glue on the end and wrap it around so that little tail doesn't get everywhere. And now, just like we did this, you're gonna wanna follow the flow of this wreath. So you see this wreath is flowing this way in a counterclockwise manner. So each of these things that we're gonna stick in here, we're gonna put everything in going this way. We don't wanna put one piece in sticking this way and another piece out sticking that way. The order is intentional as well. Whenever you walk out into the woods, the ferns are part of the understory. If you're looking at these plants from above or from a distance or a bird's eye view, these ferns and this ivy is probably going to be beneath all of the other plants. So we want to be intentional with the way we make these wreaths. We want it to be realistic, we want it to be natural, and it's going to be beautiful. We're going to take each of these and alternate whether or not the leaves go to the outside or the inside of the wreath. All right, so now that we've got our ferns placed, we have to let's make sure we like it before we continue. It's really easy to like it from this angle, but no matter what you're making, it's always important to take a step back. Take a look at things from a different perspective. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. Let's put our wreath down, stand back, and let's look at it. I like that. All right, so now we're gonna move on to our eucalyptus leaves. This is gonna fill out and finish our green foliage layer. And I'm gonna be mindful with these to place a few on the edge of the wreath. I wanna save a lot of room for those flowers. And feel free to swap out any of these plants with plants of your own liking. You wanna feel like it is alive, well watered, getting plenty of sunlight, just the thing a fake plant needs to grow. I think we love it. I think it's time to start placing our flowers. So now that we have our greenery finished, this looks lovely. That looks like a Georgia forest floor if I've ever seen one. Now it's time for us to start placing colors on our wreaths. So I think that we're gonna start with our red and our white. There's a reason for that. We don't want to jump straight into our blue because remember, the blue is our highlight. That's gonna be our centerpiece. We want that right here as a nice little bouquet. That can sit on top of the red and white if it needs to. That is just what I want that to look like. So we need to get a white after this red. Jam it in there. We want this to be alternating red and white for that good old United States of America pride. I think that's good. It's a little light on the interior circle, but I think that is perfect. But you see all these flowers are on the inside? Now we gotta go around and do the same thing on the outside. And I want to alternate how I'm doing this. So you see I have red here. As I'm going around the outside and doing it, I want to place this flower not exactly parallel with this one. I want to scoot it up. I want it to be in between this white and this red. And I want it to, instead of being red, I want it to be white. So it's going to go white, red, white, red. So that first ring of red and white flowers, we were primarily facing towards the interior of the wreath. So now you can see, as we're placing these next flowers, we're trying to find places where a little touch of red will be in between white. We don't want to put a bunch of white on the outside when we have a bunch of white on the inside. You kind of have to go around the wreath and look and see where your color is best going to fit, such as here. Technically, I have two reds right here bunched up together, but that's okay, because that looks beautiful. Okay, now let's stand back and take a look at our wreath and see what we think. It's really coming along now that we have got our red and white flowers in here, looking a lot like good old America. But we've still got to add our blue to this wreath. So that's what we're gonna do now, and that's gonna finish it off. So again, back to the colors, we want to start with our darkest blue. And you need to plan ahead for this one because we want to have this nice big blue flower. Let's say it's a hydrangea bulb. We want to have that front and center, probably right here. So we need to make space for that blue bulb. To do that, we're going to use all of our smaller flowers and accent flowers to create almost a bird nest for that flower to sit in. So we want all of those flowers to point out this way, down this way. We want to leave a hole right here. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Ooh, golly. Yeah, I just stuck my finger just right into just a big old gob of hot glue, and it just stayed there with that one. Now, unfortunately, my camera stopped recording as we were filling out this nice, beautiful blue area. However, you didn't miss a whole lot. So what we did was we went around putting the rest of these light blue accent flowers, just a few of them, around the dark blue like we were doing. Next, we took our flower buds, one of these. We just took 2 of those, and we stuck those right here out at the top. I want to try to actually hide these a little bit more behind the foliage. I want these to just ever so slightly peek through. And we placed our centerpiece, our big one. I know that was a big placement, but it's fairly obvious where it should go. We created a hole, a little bird's nest for it, using the dark blue flowers, the light blue accent flowers, and the 2 flower buds, and that left a perfect gap for us to cut this big bud nice and short and place it right here for the centerpiece. And now we are almost finished with our July 4th wreath. The final step is to add our little flowers, our stars, our fireworks, whatever you want these to be. For me, these little guys are going to represent the stars on that blue part of the American flag. That's looking great. I need a little bit more here, and a little bit more here, and I think that'll do it. All right, I really like the way this is coming together. I think we are almost finished, but I notice it's a little skimpy here. I think 1 or 2 more flowers on this corner, maybe 1 white and 1 red. I think that would balance that side of the wreath. I'll include a little bit of greenery with it too. Ah, that's perfect. That's just what it needed. And now I think 1 more of these nice little round flowers. Ah, yeah, that's just what it'll need. Maybe right there. And I think that'll balance it out. And all right, I think that's a real winner. That wreath is ready for the 4th of July. Now for the final touch, I have a cute little surprise. These little blueberries and these little raspberries, blue and red. I don't want to go overboard with accents and fruits. Too many looks tacky. However, if you can find a fruit or a nice little addition, maybe a butterfly, adding just 1 fun piece to the wreath will really make the whole thing come together. And so there you have it. You and I have finished making our beautiful summertime July 4th wreath today. It didn't take too long, and it wasn't too hard. And the important thing is you made it all by yourself. So, if you had fun making this today, I'm glad. Thanks for watching. See you next time.